Today, I'm very happy to share with this House that 76% of all the prospecting and exploration that is being done in our sedimentary basin is being done in areas which have been freed up after 2014. Wow. In fact, between the years 2006 and 16, which we often in our trade call the dull decade, very little work was done. And Madam, oil and gas is a sector which is heavily capital intensive, which has long gestation periods, and any decision that you take today or the government of the day takes today will begin to show results only 3, 5 or even 7 years later. I'm very happy to report that it is a result of various measures that we have undertaken, and I shall list a few of them. In 2016, we moved from production sharing arrangements to revenue sharing arrangements. And when we were in 2014, out of the 3.5 million square kilometers of sedimentary basin, the amount being used was exploited was only 6%. We have to take that to 15%. In spite of our efforts, we have been only be able to raise it from 6 to 10%, but that's a major jump. Therefore, in the coming time, we will have to do more, and that is the starting point of my presentation on why this piece of legislation passed by the Rajya Sabha is coming before this August House today, Madam. Madam, India's hydrocarbon resource potential is immense. We have something like 42 billion tons of oil and oil equivalent of gas, which remains to be tapped. This is, by any yardstick, a very resource-rich Bharat. But prospecting and looking for oil and gas is an expensive business. Any well which is dug onshore costs something like $3 to $4 million per well, which under today's exchange rate comes to 33 to 35 crore rupees. And if the drilling is offshore, the cost is even higher. It comes to $100 million. Now, all the resources that we have at our disposal, the private sector, the state oil marketing companies and the government, we don't have the resources. And typically in the exploration and production sector, Madam, let me give you the case of Guyana. They dug 16 wells and they did not find oil and gas. It is not that 17th well that they found or they struck gold, as it were. I am very confident that with the efforts that we are making now and with the ecosystem which will come into being as a result of the legislation which is before this August House today, we will find many Guyanas in the Andaman Sea. And as we move forward, our requirements, not only for our domestic consumption, we are both producers, we are consumers, we are importers, we are also exporters. India is today occupying a very important place in the global energy market on all fronts. Madam, we moved in 2016 from a production sharing to a revenue sharing agreement. In 2018, the government reformed policies to promote coal bed, methane and enhanced oil and gas recovery methods. We also allowed CBM operations by coal miners. In 2022, we opened up 99% of the no-go areas, as I mentioned, out of the 3.5 million square kilometers, 1 million square kilometers, which was a no-go area, has been opened up. And Madam, I'm very happy to inform this House through you that when we had the 9th round of open acreage licensing policy, 38% of the bids which were received were part of this 1 million square kilometers of no-go area. Madam, the E&P, exploration and production industry, is blind without seismic data. To reduce the fear of investment becoming a sunk cost on account of no prospective discovery, we gave impetus to the acquisition of quality geological and geoscientific data by launching various programs such as National Seismic Program, Airborne Gravity and Geomagnetic Survey, Exclusive Economic Zone Survey, setting up of National Data Repository and hydrocarbon resources. I'm very happy to inform you that government has approved the acquisition of additional 2D seismic data of 20,000 LKM on land and 30,000 LKM in offshore. There are various other activities which we have undertaken to make the Indian market, Indian exploration space more attractive. And I'm confident that companies like Exxon, BP, Chevron, Total, ENI, which had left India, they are not only showing interest in coming back, many of them have already started partnering our OMCs, as in the rejuvenation of Bombay High, seismic survey by a Brazilian company, Petrobras, with Oil India in the Andaman Sea, and so on and so forth. We have already increased the explored area, as I mentioned, from 6% to 10% of the sedimentary basin, but we are very confident that with the steps in hand, we will take it to 15% of the sedimentary basin. In addition, Bombay High Basin, through exploratory efforts, has more than doubled between 2014-24 as compared to 2004 and 14. We are also re-engaging with international oil and gas giants to fully help us and jointly explore our E&P. We have successfully awarded 144 blocks to competitive bidding process covering 2.5 lakh square kilometers and secured commitment investment of $3.37 billion under OALP from round 1 to 8. Of these, 131 blocks are under active exploration and some discoveries have been made. Madam, I will fast forward. Why are we bringing this bill? For a number of reasons. We used to have, Madam, an original law which was enacted in 1948. It was a common law to cover both mining, quarrying, and petroleum leases or mineral oil. Then in 1957, a separate law for the mines and mineral sector was enacted, namely the Mines and Minerals Development and Regulation Act 1957. While the parent legislation was rechristened the Oil Fields Regulation and Development Act 1948, all the terminologies within the Act continue to remain the same, and we are seeking to change that today. We are also introducing a single permit system for all types of mineral oil exploration, be it exploration, development, or production of conventional oil and gas, or unconventional hydrocarbons like shale gas, tight oil, or tight gas. The bill also seeks to clarify the meaning of the term mineral oils, particularly in its modern context, so as to promote exploration and production of new fuel options like shale gas, shale oil, coal-based methane, natural gas, gas hydrates. The bill also seeks to facilitate development of comprehensive energy projects and new technologies such as carbon capture utilization and sequestration, CCUS, green hydrogen, etc., all of which will help us achieve net zero status by 2070. The bill proposes a new framework for sharing of resources and infrastructure between different operators to improve viability of oil blocks. Madam, the oil bill also aims to resolve one of the biggest grievances of global oil companies interested in investing in India by providing stability in operations, both in terms of tenure of the lease and condition. It is my firm belief, based on my experience for the last 3.5 years, Madam, that stability and predictability for a foreign investor where large amounts of investment are required in the infrastructure sector are absolutely crucial, and this bill seeks to do that. We also propose to substitute an acrimonious mode of dispute resolution with fast and efficient alternate dispute resolution mechanism, which will ensure disputes can be resolved in a timely, fair and cost-effective manner. There were also some punitive provisions, such as a fine of 1,000 rupees, which made the provisions almost meaningless. We are substituting that by 25 lakhs rupees up to 10 lakhs per day for continuing infraction. The bill will, in summary, Madam, add to ease of doing business and make India an attractive destination. I want to conclude, Madam, by also a brief outlining, because I know many of my dear friends and members in the opposition will take the floor, to say what the bill does not do and will not do. The bill does not alter the rights of states. For on-land areas, the states will continue to give petroleum leases and receive royalties as before. That is the situation now. That is the situation which will continue. The bill does not alter the existing level playing field and offers no preference to either private or public sector. In fact, I heard some comments originally, but when I spoke in the Rajya Sabha and the bill was passed there, I think that point has not been repeated because it is amply clear within the text of the legislation and otherwise. Removal of criminal punishment would encourage infraction. This is a civil and commercial legislation. Criminal matters will continue to be tried under the relevant criminal laws. And to deter infractions, we have increased the penalties and provided for their expeditious adjudication. The bill grants no exemptions from the need for compliance with environmental standards. Additionally, our contracts mandate it and also provide for site restoration. The bill also provides for decarbonization and development of comprehensive energy projects. Madam, insofar as the fate of existing contracts is concerned, existing leases and licenses will continue to be valid for their respective tenures, subject to terms and conditions governing the grant of such leases and licenses as provided in the savings clause of the bill. I hope this will reassure my colleagues from different parts of the House. There is no change in the rights of the states, which they will continue to enjoy these rights, and there is no attempt or even thinking of curtailing those rights. Madam, with these words, I will conclude my presentation. I look forward to the participation of my colleagues in the House, and it would be a privilege and honor for me to respond to those observations. I thank you, Madam.
माननीय सदस्य श्री मनीष तिवारी जी.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson. I rise to speak on the Oil Fields Regulation and Development Amendment Act 2024. Before I commence my submissions, on a lighter note, I would like to say that it was good to hear the reply to the bill even before the discussion had commenced. So therefore, this seems to be a new precedent in the House that even before a discussion on the bill commences, you have the minister preempting and trying to offer justifications which he could have very much offered at the end of this discussion. Now, the statement of objects and reasons of this bill, and with your permission, Madam Chairperson, I would like to read out a line or two. It says in para 2 that the said act, which provides for a very different global energy context. So therefore, the rationale for amending this bill, according to the statement of objects and reasons, is that the global context has changed. I do not think anybody can have a quibble with it because the global context changes on an everyday basis, especially when you have mercurial people in office in some parts of the world. But however, I would like to point out that India's quest for energy security and India's path towards facing and confronting these challenges has been a continuum now going back almost 5 decades. India weathered the first oil shock in 1973, when overnight, from $3 a barrel, the price of oil, crude oil, rose to $12 a barrel. India weathered the second oil shock when the Iranian Revolution took place, when there was again a spike in the price of oil. India weathered a third oil shock in 1991 when the first Gulf War commenced. And so therefore, I would very humbly like to point out to my colleagues on the Treasury benches that history did not start in 2014. History started much earlier. Yes. I think there is a need to be cognizant if you want to rise above partisan politics and really make this into a discussion about India's energy security rather than a he said, she said point scoring, which unfortunately is what commenced this debate. What is the global context today, Madam Chairperson? The global context today is that you have an ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine. You have a conflict between Israel, Hamas, Houthis, Hezbollah, by extension, certain other sovereign Westphalian states. And then you have the continuing rise of China since 2013, which has not been a too peaceful rise, and it has implications both for India's national security and, by extension, energy security, which is a subset of that larger, overarching construct of national security. So therefore, our vulnerabilities remain. The three choke points, which actually are the Achilles heel of the global energy trade, the Straits of Bab al-Mandab, the Straits of Hormuz, the Straits of Malacca, they still continue to be the existential dilemma for all energy importing and energy producing and energy consuming countries. And unfortunately, and this is not to apportion blame on anybody, but globally also and through collective efforts, we've not really been able to find a solution, a reasonable, sustainable solution to these existential security dilemmas, which have an impact on the largest energy consuming nations in Asia, be it India, be it China, be it South Korea, be it Japan. That continues to be a continuous Achilles heel. Of course, we've had some windfalls over the last couple of years. The Russia-Ukraine war, in a certain sense of the word, was a crude oil windfall for India. And not only for India, for China, for Turkey, for various countries, even in the European Union, which, while supporting the sanctions against Russia, actually round-tripped their energy needs. And therefore, it's very interesting that India's oil imports from Russia in 2021 were 4.54 million tons. In 23, it increased to 88.92 million tons. We bought crude oil worth $49 billion from Russia. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with it. Every country acts in its own best national interest. And therefore, if we were getting access to cheaper crude oil and we availed of that opportunity, I am not going to have a quibble with the government on that. All that I'm going to point out is that these windfalls do not happen every day. And we need to be prepared. We need to be prepared. We need to be future ready, which unfortunately we are not. And I'll point out as to what the factual situation is, despite the claims which the Honourable Minister has made. In the year 2014-15, our production of crude and natural gas was 37.461 million metric tons. Our import in 2014-15 was 189.432 million metric tons of crude oil. The average price of crude was about $84.20 per barrel. In 2023-24, our crude oil production has actually declined to 29.4 million metric tons. Our crude oil import has actually risen to 243.3 billion metric tons. The average price of the Indian basket of crude oil as on the 10th of March 2025, stands at 70.65 US dollars to a barrel, which is almost about $10 less than what it was. Madam, you'll have to give me some time, because this is an important subject connected with India's energy security. There are not many people in this House. So therefore, under those circumstances, allow me to complete. I'll need about 7 to 10 minutes more. I request your indulgence. And the average price was about almost $9 or $10 less than what it was in 2014. The unfortunate situation today is that in the year 2023-24, we imported 87.8% of our crude and oil gas and natural gas needs. The figure could be almost as high as 90% today. It raises a very legitimate question as to what really has this government been doing over the past 10 years in attempting to bring down this import dependency on oil and natural gas. Let me come to Mumbai High. The Mumbai High crude oil and natural gas oil field at its peak was producing 476,000 barrels per day. What is its production now? 134,000 barrels per day. Notwithstanding the collaboration with Chevron, with ExxonMobil, and the large oil majors, which Mr. Hardeep Puri referred to in his introduction to the bill, the fact is that the Bombay High collaboration has not boosted the oil production. Minister, when you get your chance, you'll get a chance to reply. We never interrupted you, heard you very peacefully. So therefore, when you get a chance to reply, we'll be here to hear you. Similarly, shale oil and gas. Now, according to estimates, there's 96 trillion cubic feet of gas and 1 billion barrels of shale oil in Cambay, Krishna Godavari and the Kaveri Basin. What has the government done in the past 10 years to tap the potential of shale oil? Why is there no explanation for what has been done over the past 10 years? This bill is not coming as if this government was sworn in yesterday. This government has been in office for 11 years now. So I would like to ask, what has this government done with regard to trying to explore shale oil and gas, which incidentally has made America almost self-sufficient insofar as their oil and gas needs are concerned? The Honourable Minister, Mr. Prahlad Joshi, to whom I had the honour of asking a question in the morning, which he chose to duck, but well, that's his prerogative, had said that 100 million tons of coal gasification and liquefaction would be achieved by 2030 by investing 4 lakh crores. I would like to ask, where are we in 2025? You have a target for 2030. Where are we with regard to coal gasification and liquefaction? How much of this target really has been achieved? So what you require, in addition to a law, is actually a roadmap to make India energy sufficient, which unfortunately is completely missing. I would like to end by just 2 or 3 suggestions, Madam Chairperson. There's a need to think out of the box. The Minister was absolutely correct. Oil exploration and gas exploration costs a lot of money. And that money, unfortunately, is not readily available in the amounts and volumes that it is required. I'm not suggesting that you go back to the wildcatting days of the Wild West. But what is the government planning to do to encourage independent oil explorers? After all, there's a whole community around the world of independent oil explorers. Does your bill have anything that incentivizes these independent oil explorers, in addition to, of course, the oil majors whom you are wanting that they come in, and if they do, that would be more than welcome. Similarly, there was an international energy forum in Riyadh. The minister is aware of it, given his long years in India's diplomatic service. Now, that forum was essentially created to facilitate a consumer-producer dialogue. How much of a role is India proactively playing in this forum in order to ensure that there is a dialogue between consumers and producers, especially given the fact that we import 90% or 87.8% as of 2023-24 of our oil needs? So therefore, the reality is the Indian economy even today is hydrocarbon dependent. And out of that hydrocarbon dependency, 65 or 55% of it is still coal. It is not even oil and gas. So therefore, I would like to request the government, you need to come out with a proper strategy which takes into account hydrocarbons, intermediates, and renewables in a holistic manner. So therefore, you have a roadmap to energy self-sufficiency by 2050 or by 2060. Insofar as your bill is concerned, Mr. Minister, it makes minor changes here and there. So it's more of a technical bill. What is really missing is a vision. What is really missing is a roadmap. And as I started by saying, you are not a government which was sworn in yesterday. You are a government which is 11 years old. And you need to account for the fact that what have you done over the past 11 years. Thank you.
माननीय सदस्य श्री दिलीप सीकिया जी।
धन्यवाद सभापति महोदया। I stand for supporting the Oilfield Regulation Development Amendment Bill 2024, which was tabled by Honorable Minister Shri Hardeep Singh Puri ji under the leadership of Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji. Madam Chairperson, I belong to a oil and natural gas producing state of our beloved motherland. You all know the first refinery, or you can say the Asia's first refinery and one of the oldest refinery established in 1901 in Deepgoi. And thereafter, in 1974, we have started another refinery. It is in Bongaigaon Refinery and Petrochemicals Limited. And thereafter, in 1993, we have started the third one, that is Nirmala Refinery Limited. So, I belong to that rich oil and natural gas producing state, not as said by some member of the House day before yesterday, that you are from state of Lahe. We are not representing the state of Lahe. We are representing the strong and vibrant economy of India, which is a major contributory state in the oil and natural gas sector. Madam Chairperson, as I heard our learned parliament member, who represent the Congress party, Manishji, he said that it's not the year of 2014. Yes, all the people of India, all the members of parliament and the world knows that it is not the history of 2014. If you goes back, it's the history of 1901 in India, when Congress also not here in India, BJP also not here in India. The journey started from 1901. But not this Congress. Not this Congress. This Congress is a dynasty Congress. This is not the Gandhi's Congress. Mind it, and you also go that what I want to talk about the history of oil and natural gas. Madam Chairperson, why this bill has been coming for consideration and passing? First of all, the Oil Field Regulation and Development Amendment Bill 2014 will surely enhance the investor confidence in India's oil and gas sector. The bill aims to boost investment in India's oil and gas sector by providing stable lease terms, enabling arbitration and streamlining operations, thereby addressing long-standing industrial demands for policy stability and regulatory clarity. Madam Chairperson, the bill also creates a more investor-friendly environment by addressing long-standing concerns about the policy stability. I want to quote that what was happened in 2014, before 2014. Before 2014, Bharat's crude oil import dependence was $1,42,962 billion. Our opposition friends should heard this. What was the dependence? What was the amount in 2013-14 due to the policy paralysis of the UPA government? It was $1,42,962 billion. But in 2020, 21, 22, under the dynamic leadership of Narendra Modi ji, what was the dependence? Bharat's crude oil import dependence decreased to $62,248 billion from $1,42,962 billion. That is the success story of our government led by Narendra Modi ji. Madam Chairperson, if you go through the success story, I want to inform the House what is the position of our country in world oil and fuel sector and natural gas sector. Madam Chairperson, you know and we all know that India is Asia's second largest refinery capacity country, amounting to 56 MMTPA with the 22 oil refineries. Madam, India is the third largest oil consumer, amounting to 233 MMT consumption in financial year 2024, Madam. Madam Chairperson, India is the fourth largest LNG importer, 31 MMTPA LNG imports in 2023-24. So, under the leadership of Narendra Modi ji, oil and natural gas sector and fuel became one of the India's most contributory in our country's GDP. Presently, we have 263 projects which was under implementation. The total cost of the project is 5,35,779 crores in this year. What are the sectors? The sectors are refinery, pipeline, exploration and production, petrochemicals, city gas distribution, infrastructure and others issues, and marketing also. Madam, I want to mention and feel proud, feel good that under the leadership of Narendra Modi ji, Paradip Numaligarh crude oil pipeline, PNCPL, and crude oil import terminal, COIT, has been almost complete. On September 25, the project will be commissioned. The project cost is 11,407 crores. That is the longest pipeline. मैडम थोड़ा बोलना है प्लीज। गौरव दा भी सुन रहा है, गौरव दा भी असम से है, थोड़ा सा सब कुछ सुनाना है क्या हो रहा है देश में। अपोजिशन के लिए अपोजिशन नहीं करना है, देश के विकास में पेट्रोलियम नेचुरल गैस सेक्टर का एक बहुत बड़ा भूमिका है। इस भूमिका को सब लोग को जानना चाहिए। मैडम, और एक बहुत बड़ा हम असम को प्रधानमंत्री जी ने गिफ्ट दिया, ये दूसरा है असम बायो रिफाइनरी। इट इज द फर्स्ट काइंड ऑफ रिफाइनरी, पहला ऐसा रिफाइनरी है इस देश में जो वायु रिफाइनरी है। असम बायो रिफाइनरी किससे बनेगा? बैम्बू से इथानॉल प्रोडक्शन करेगा। और इसका प्रोजेक्ट कॉस्ट कितना है मैडम? 4,200 करोड़ का है। ये माननीय मोदी जी ने आसाम को उपहार दिया है। अभी बिहू आने वाला है, ये बिहू के पहले ये उपहार माननीय नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने आसाम वासियों को दिया है। ये बायोफ्यूल प्रोडक्शन ये जून 2025 में इसका कंप्लीशन होगा। तुरंत बिहू के बाद होगा, लेकिन कपड़ा जब खरीदते हैं हम बिहू के पहले खरीदते हैं, बिहू में पहनते हैं, लेकिन उपहार पहले आ जाएगा, हमारे पास आ गया। इसका फिजिकल प्रोग्रेस 99% हो गया है, 1% खाली काम बाकी है, टेक्निकल काम, वो भी कंप्लीट हो जाएगा, जिसके कारण असम को पहले असम बायो रिफाइनरी मिलने वाला है और कमीशन भी होने वाला है। मैडम चेयरपर्सन, आप ऐसे कुछ विषय है जो विषय इस सदन के सामने लाना उचित समझता हो। माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी के नेतृत्व में और हमारे माननीय मंत्री हरदीप सिंह पुरी जी के नेतृत्व में इस भारत के India's aggressive economic growth is fueling its energy demand, which is predicted to nearby double to 1,123 million tons of oil equivalent. India has significantly increased the production of crude oil since independence. India also produces about 37 BCM of natural gas. If you go through the data and achievement, Moniji should hear me, Congress should hear me, what was in 2014. India energy availability was through biofuel, and ethanol procurement has increased. It was only 38 crore litre in 2014, madam. But what the volume in 2024, madam? It is increased from 38 crore litre in 2014 to 720 crore liters in 2024, madam. So where was UPA and where is now our NDA? That is the difference. The picture says something. मनीष तिवारी जी बाहर चला गया है, इनका स्वभाव है, अपना बोलता है, बाद में चला जाता है. ये स्वभाव को इसको कब ठीक होगा मालूम नहीं. डेप्यूटी लीडर इनको ठीक करना चाहिए, लीडर ऑफ द हाउस थोड़ा उनको भी ठीक करना चाहिए. अपोजिशन का सुनने का धैर्य नहीं है, क्या है, अच्छा सुनता नहीं है, गाली याद रहता है, अच्छा काम याद नहीं रहता है. चलिए जैसा करनी है ऐसा भरनी है, ऐसा भरनी भी हो रहा है, जैसा कर रहा है किया है. मैंने इसका बारे में और एक तथ्य देना चाहता हूं मैडम. अंडर द यूपीए in the past, the exploration activities were not supported through proactive government action. No acreage was licensed, Madam Chairperson. No acreage was licensed during 2004 to 2014, Madam. Thus, decelerating the exploration process. What he was questioned to the government, that exploration process and increasing import dependence in respect of crude and oil, natural gas was increased. In their period, madam, not in our period. Definitely, we are an importing country in terms of crude oil, in terms of natural gas. We are importing, but हम बढ़ा रहे हैं, मैडम. इस देश के लिए, इस देश में क्लीन एनर्जी, ग्रीन एनर्जी, जीरो कार्बन, ये अपना जो ये पॉलिसी है, नेट जीरो कार्बन करने का हमारा जो नीति है, उसके लिए हम काम कर रहे हैं मैडम. ये नरेंद्र मोदी जी का ही कमाल है, नरेंद्र मोदी जी का ही नेतृत्व है. 2015 onwards, our government led by Modi ji has brought several policy norms like permitting unconventional hydrocarbon operations and levy of reduced royalties to promote exploration and production of hydrocarbons in our country. First hydrocarbon policy was started under the Narendra Modi ji, and it is in action. Madam Chairperson, if you go through the achievement, we can see that production of gas under the non-nominational fields have shown increase during the last few years, and share has increased to almost 30% of gross production. So despite the coupling with international market, as he mentioned, Manish ji, पूरे विश्व में एक coupling हुआ international markets में. The gas prices have remained, but under the dynamic policy and the stand of Narendra Modi ji, the gas prices have remained almost stable during the last few years. Domestically, petrol and diesel prices have come down about 15% and 10%, madam. But, sorry to say, the BJP-led, NDA-led government of state government reduced the prices of the petrol and diesel, but in some Congress-ruled state, they have not reduced. It is the same to the government, that opposition, state government. They always say for गरीब के बात करता है, तो गरीब के लिए उन्होंने पेट्रोल डीजल में अपना लेवी, अपना कस्टम्स ड्यूटी कम नहीं किया है तो भारत में हमारे एनडीए सरकार ने किया है. मैडम, I am concluding, madam. Madam, during the same period, India has been one of the very few major economies in the world. where the prices of petrol and diesel have come down. काफी सारे देश में भारत ऐसा एक प्रदेश है जिसमें डीजल और पेट्रोल का दाम कम हो गया है. Prices in the neighboring countries have also increased by more than 10 to 13%, madam. But
45 जवाब कराना है.
हमारे इसमें इसके 10 to 13%.
प्लीज धन्यवाद धन्यवाद.
ऑनलाइन एक लाइन मैडम एक लाइन बोलने दीजिए, कंप्लीट करने दीजिए मैडम, कंप्लीट करने दीजिए.
करिए कंप्लीट
करना है. हमारे दिन में 10 to 13% का पेट्रोल डीजल पैसे कमी आए. तो मैं ऑल टुगेदर सभी विषय को लेकर के मैं इस जो महत्वपूर्ण विधेयक माननीय मंत्री जी ने लाया है, अपना हरदीप सिंह पुरी जी ने, मैं इस विधेयक को पूरा सपोर्ट करता हूं और इस देश के आर्थिक विकास में इस बिल बहुत एक माइलस्टोन के नाते काम करेगी, ऐसा उम्मीद रखते हुए मैं प्रधानमंत्री जी को फिर से एक बार धन्यवाद देता हूं.
माननीय सदस्य
को धन्यवाद देता हूं. मेरा विषय खत्म करता हूं. धन्यवाद. नमस्कार.
आभारी हूं सभापति महोदया, और सबसे पहले
माननीय सदस्य से मैं आग्रह कर रही हूं मात्र अपनी विषय को 3 मिनट के अंदर समाप्त करने का प्रयास करें.
महोदया, सबसे पहले तो आज होलिका दहन है और कल होली है. होली और होलिका दहन की बहुत बहुत पूरे सदन के साथियों को, आपको और कर्मचारियों को बधाई देता हूं. हालांकि हम सांसदों की तो होली खराब हो गई. बड़ा आशा था कि इस बजट में महोदया 2011 में जीएसटी लागू नहीं थी, यूपीए सरकार ने सांसद निधि 5 करोड़ किया, लेकिन 25 बरस हो गया, अब जीएसटी भी आने लगी, लेकिन सांसद निधि इस होली में नहीं बढ़ा. महोदया, अभी हमारे साथी कह रहे थे कि बहुत अच्छा विकास हो रहा है. एक चीज मैं बताना चाहता हूं, आसाम को रिफाइनरी मिली. महोदया, एक उद्धरण करना चाहता हूं. गुजरात स्टेट पेट्रोलियम कारपोरेशन को ओएनजीसी ने जो ब्लॉक दिया था, आज सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट के पास है. सीएजी रिपोर्ट, जीएसपीजी रिपोर्ट में कहा गया कि गुजरात गवर्नमेंट केजी मिशन में 63 ब्लॉक लिया और 19,000 करोड़ रुपए डाले. कहा गया कि यहां दूध, दही, दूध और पानी की तरह से पेट्रोलियम पदार्थ निकलेंगे. लेकिन हुआ क्या, मैं अपनी बात नहीं कर रहा हूं बल्कि जीएसपीसी की बात कर रहा हूं. 19,000 करोड़ रुपया गलत तरीके से खर्च हुआ और जो अन्वेषण तेल का हुआ उसमें इतना नुकसान हो गया, मिला कुछ नहीं. महोदया, ये अच्छी बात है कि अगर खनन पट्टा से परेशानी हो रही है तो पेट्रोलियम पट्टा का नाम रखा जाए, ये अच्छी बात है. उसकी व्यापकता बढ़ाई जाए, ये भी अच्छी बात है. लेकिन ये जो संशोधन है केवल कारपोरेट जगत के लाभ के लिए न हो, यह मेरी शंका है. महोदया, जो इस विधेयक से तो लगता है कि सरकार ने एक बार फिर इन्वेस्टमेंट के नाम पर अपने कारपोरेट मित्रों को देश की प्राकृतिक संपदा तेल गैस सौंपने का इंतजाम कर लिया है. 2023-24 में ओएनजीसी ने करीब 40,000 करोड़ रुपए का मुनाफा कमाया था. जब पब्लिक सेक्टर कंपनियां मुनाफा कमा रही हैं तो दिक्कत क्या है? अपना मुनाफा कमाए. आप परिवर्तन कर रहे हैं 25 लाख रुपया जुर्माना का. आपराधिक सजा हटा दी जाए और 25 लाख जुर्माना हो जाए. मैं सरकार से और मंत्री से कहना चाहता हूं कि जुर्माना होते हैं और मुकदमे होते रहते हैं, जुर्माना का कभी रिटर्न नहीं लिया जा पाता है, यह भी ध्यान रखिए. कृषि पर व्यापक प्रभाव पड़ रहा है. तेल के दाम कम होने के नाम नहीं ले रहे हैं. पूरे देश के साथ हमको कंपटीशन करना होगा विश्व के साथ कि विश्व में जितने भी तेल कंपनियां हैं, हम उन पर न निर्भर होकर के अपने पास आए, अपने निर्भर रहें। लेकिन ये भी तो बताएं कि जो हमारे सामाजिक सरोकार के कार्य हैं, जो सोशल मूवमेंट के काम हैं, इन कंपनियों का क्या योगदान है। महोदया, आज भी हमारे देश की बहुत सी ऐसी आबादी है जो गैस सिलेंडर नहीं ले सकती, वो सड़क के किनारे रहती है, वो झुग्गी झोपड़ियों में जीवन बिताती है। मिट्टी का तेल बंद हो गया। हाँ, बंद हुआ। मिट्टी का तेल कहीं पता नहीं, जहां स्टोव से खाना बनाता था गरीब आदमी। आज भी जो आदिवासी इलाके हैं, वहां जहां इलेक्ट्रिफिकेशन नहीं हो, वहां मिट्टी के तेल का उपयोग था, लेकिन उसका नाश हो गया। तो मैं केवल यही कहना चाहता हूं आपसे कि ये जो हमारे पेट्रोल कंपनियां हैं, माननीय मंत्री जी, ये CSR फंड जो सोशल जस्टिस के लिए जाता है, उसमें ये भेद कर रही हैं और सभी सांसदों को, सभी दल के सांसदों के इलाके में काम नहीं कर रही हैं। हम चिट्ठी लिखते रह गए, लेकिन किसी कंपनी में नहीं रह रहे। भेदभाव मंत्री जी न करिए, हम सभी सांसद हैं। और आप, मैं यही कहूंगा, समय समाप्त हुआ, धन्यवाद।
On behalf of All India Trinamool Congress, I rise to speak on the Oil Fields Regulation and Development Amendment Bill 2024. Madam, our economic growth depends on trade as well as import-export policies. And our country, the trend of our country is we are importing heavily. And still our country is heavily dependent on foreign countries for importing crude oil. So our Honorable Minister Hardeep Singh Puri ji is trying his level best to make our country self-sufficient. But I would like to know from the Honorable Minister, what is the plan of this ministry to make our country self-sufficient in the field of oil sector? And Madam, so our country is undergoing a severe crisis due to skyrocketing fuel price. I would also like to know from the Honorable Minister, sir, how to give relief to the poor people as they are heavily burdened on the fuel price. And Madam, now coming to the bill, so the most worrying part of the bill is, sir, that it opens the door for private companies to dominate oil fields, allowing big corporations to extract mineral oils with very little government control. The newly added scheme 4A says that no one can carry out operations without a valid lease, but it does not give the state enough power to strictly control or monitor exploration activities. This means the control of natural resources will shift from the government to private companies, reducing the state direct authority over oil production. This goes against the principle of national sovereignty and could lead to corporate exploitation of resources. So another major concern is the amendment to Section 6, which now promotes not only extraction but also long-term exploration of oil fields. Even worse, the central government has been given the power to extend the lease period indefinitely, allowing oil companies to exploit this field for decades without any strict environmental checks. This is a direct violation of India's commitment to fight climate change under the Paris Agreement and other global environmental treaties. If the government continues to allow unchecked exploration, it will have severe long-term impacts on the environment and public resources. Madam, now coming to Section 5 gives the central government full authority to grant, extend or renew petroleum leases without seeking approval from state government. Additionally, the newly... What happened, madam? 10 minutes. So I am very much confined with the bill. Kindly allow me. Why 10 minutes?
कर लीजिए, कंप्लीट कर लीजिए, एक मिनट में पूरा कर लीजिए.
without seeking approval from the state government. Additionally, the newly introduced Section 4A prevents state government from issuing exploration license, handing over complete control of oil exploration to the central government. And this move is unconstitutional and directly violates the federal structure of our country. And the bill also introduced a provision for utilization of leases across states, meaning if an oil or gas reservoir extends across 2 or more states, the central government can club them under a single lease agreement. This will allow big corporate companies to extract resources from multiple states under one license, increasing their profits while reducing the revenue that individual states would otherwise receive. Additionally, the bill does not include any clear rules for environmental protection, labor rights or local development, proving that the biggest beneficiary of this bill is not the public but large companies. And another major flaw in Section 6A, which places the responsibility of decommissioning and restoring the site entirely on private companies. However, the bill does not ensure any strict state supervision, which means companies could easily abandon damaged sites without proper restoration, causing serious environmental damage like soil erosion, groundwater pollution, deforestation. What still the bill encourages the use of carbon capture, utilization and storage, which will allow prolonged fossil fuel exploration, going completely against India's climate change. And Madam,
Complete
the
करिए
bill
माननीय
also
सदस्य
makes
प्लीज
no
कंप्लीट
mention
करिए.
of protecting the rights of indigenous, tribal or local communities who live in oil-rich regions like Assam, Gujarat, Jharkhand has already shown. The large scale of oil exploration has resulted in forced displacement, land grabbing and destruction of biodiversity. Section 9 are highly unfair towards small and medium scale oil operators. The bill imposes a fixed penalty of ₹25 lakhs for violating Section 4A or Section 6A, along with an additional fine of 10 lakhs per day for continuing non-completion.
माननीय सदस्य
Sir,
DM कातिर जी.
allowing oil corporation to dominate the oil sector. Madam, just 1 minute. And the major concern is the amendment Section 5, which now allows the central government to make new rules, extend petroleum leases and renewal licenses. And the bill also completely contradicts India's climate goals. While India has committed to achieving net zero carbon emission by 2070, the bill promotes longer lease periods, automatic renewals without environmental reassessment, and carbon capture, utilization and storage, which will
माननीय
only
सदस्य
increase
DM
fossil
कातिर जी.
fuel exploration. Madam, my constituency.
बोलिए माननीय सदस्य प्लीज.
Let her conclude.
Let her conclude, sir.
Let her conclude.
1 minute, madam. 1 minute, let her conclude.
नहीं मैम नहीं.
One line only, madam. One line, Magali.
एक
One line, madam, one line. Ashok Nagar oil field was discovered in 2018 by Oil and Natural Gas Corporation. This is the first oil field in West Bengal and West India. And the
आपको 2 मिनट
pipeline
मिलेंगे बस.
from Jagdishpur Holdia Dhamra project, I would like to know from...
Thank you,
हो गया माननीय सदस्य
Chairman,
प्लीज
madam.
बैठिए.
Today I stand before you to address the Oil Fields Regulation and Amendment Bill 2024. This bill is brought into the bill is a timely and a transformative measure to modernize our regulatory framework for oil and gas exploration. However, we embrace progress. We must remain mindful of the regional and ecological impacts and the resource extraction. Sir, it broadens the definition of mineral oils to include naturally occurring hydrocarbons such as coal bed methane, shale gas and shale oil. This expansion aligns with the global best practices and encourages innovation in previously untapped areas. Agreed. Bill replaces the outdated mining lease with more comprehensive petroleum lease, ensuring that our regulation reflect the evolving nature of the industry. Bill also empowers the central government to make rules on critical matters like the environmental protection, emission reduction, and the conservation of mineral oils. Additionally, It decriminalizes certain provisions of the Act, replacing criminal penalties with the adjudication mechanism to foster a business-friendly environment. These changes represent a paradigm shift towards a sustainable and efficient resource management. However, alongside these merits, we must address the pressing issues of tungsten hydrocarbon mining in Tamil Nadu. The biodiversity-rich Melur region of Madurai, a proposed site of tungsten mining, is facing significant opposition from local communities and environmental activities. This region, home to rare flora and fauna, has been declared a biodiversity heritage site, and any mining activity here could result in irreparable ecological damage. Similarly, hydrocarbon mining projects proposed in Gulf of Mannar, a biodiversity hotspot, poses a severe risk to fragile ecosystem, marine life and livelihoods of our coastal communities. The lack of prior consultation with the Tamil Nadu government before initiating these projects has raised valid concerns.
Yes.
In this context, I must commend the vital role played by our Tamil Nadu Chief Minister M.K. Stalin in addressing these issues. His proactive leadership and unwavering commitment to protecting the state's natural heritage and the livelihoods of its people have been exemplary. Our CM Stalin sir has consistently voiced his opposition to these projects, emphasizing the ecological and socio-economic risk involved. He wrote to the Prime Minister urging the central government to halt these initiatives and reconsider their impact on Tamil Nadu's fragile ecosystems. His efforts have also included passing the unanimous resolution in the Tamil Nadu State Assembly and engaging with the local communities to address their concern. To ensure equitable and transparent decision making, I have some suggestions for the ministry. For a mandatory state consensus, a legal framework should be established, require explicit no objection certificate from the state government before initiating mining, exploration projects. This would guarantee the states that having a decisive role in approving projects that impact the regions. Madam, this is a very important suggestion. I want to give it to the ministry. Madam, I have to conclude, madam, please. For a transparent process, we must make all project details, including environmental, impact assessment and community feedback, accessible to the state authorities and public. Strengthen environmental safeguards by redefining project boundaries to exclude biodiversity-rich areas and implement strict environmental regulations to prevent ecological damage. Community engagement by actively involve local communities in the decision-making process to address their concerns and protect their livelihoods. Yes. For independent oversight, we should establish an independent regulatory body to oversee mining projects, ensuring compliance with the environmental and social norms with the state participation. Speaker, sir, and honorable members, this bill and the issues it encompasses reminds us that our path to the progress must be both inclusive and responsible. While we harness the potential of our natural resources to drive economic growth, we must also safeguard the environment and empower the communities that depend on it. Let us therefore strive to build a future where development and sustainability go hand in hand. I urge upon the Union Minister to consider the above said mentioned considerations and join me in advocating for an industrial development approach that is fair, transparent and forward thinking. Thank you.
माननीय सदस्य टी कृष्णा प्रसाद जी.
Thank you, Madam, for giving me the opportunity to speak on the debate over Oil Fields Regulation and Amendment Bill 2024. Madam Speaker, I stand to support this bill and offer my opinions and suggestions on this crucial piece of legislation. As we move on the path of development, Madam, our energy needs are bound to grow. However, this increase will have to be met from our own enhanced production instead of imports. India's oil import dependency in April-September period of this year has touched 88.2%, up from 87.8% in 2023-24. This is a concerning figure and is alone enough to exemplify the need for this bill, which will help us to achieve Urja Atmanirbharta or energy self-reliance. I was listening to Honorable Petroleum Minister's address in Rajya Sabha, Speaker ma'am, and he highlighted how in the past decade the NDA government has endeavored to encourage exploration of petroleum and natural gas. Under the visionary leadership of our Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi ji, India has established itself on the global stage with exports of the petroleum product rising from $60.84 billion in 2014 to $84.96 billion in 2023, showing the tremendous growth that the NDA government has managed to achieve over the past decade. According to International Energy Agency's World Energy Outlook 2022, Madam Speaker, India's energy consumption will double by 2040. As per the IEA, India's energy demand is expected to grow at about 3% per annum till 2040, compared to the global growth rate of only 1%. The Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, has also highlighted in its World Oil Outlook 2022 that India will have the highest energy demand, rising from 18.6 million barrels per day to 37.7 million barrels per day. This increase in petroleum demand is fueled by the growing economic activity and increasing ease of doing business, contributing to the Honorable PM's vision of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas. India has been the largest exporter of petroleum products in Asia for the year 2020-21, which is a testament to the unwavering vision of the government for promoting business. India is also the fourth largest refiner, another feather in the cap we all should be proud of. The government has also allowed 100% FDI via the automatic route for private companies in refining as well as LNG regasification infrastructure, which will promote investment in the capital-intensive sector, leading to inclusive growth. Madam. Ma'am, I would like to draw the attention of the House to another pertinent and equally important indicator. India ranks 22nd in the world in terms of proven crude oil reserves. However, the reserve/production ratio is 16.1. This means that given the current level of production and no new reserves being accreted, the present reserves will also last approximately for 16 years. It is essentially indicates that all of the reserves will be depleted within our lifetimes if corrective action is not taken. Addition of reserves, however, is a dynamic process, and this is the chance for India to shine. To this end, Madam, the bill makes a landmark change by introducing a petroleum lease in the place of mining lease. The mining sector is governed by the Mines and Minerals Development and Regulation Act 1957, and as such, there should be a transparent and seamless procedure in the petroleum and hydrocarbon exploration to encourage prospecting in operations thereafter. It is pertinent to point out that the petroleum exploration differs fundamentally from the mining activities in both their methods and impact. Due to the existing nomenclature, confusion often arises, delaying petroleum exploration operations for the need of irrelevant permits and licenses. With the new petroleum lease, prospecting, exploration and exploitation will be enhanced, increasing our reserve/production ratio and providing us all with a safe and secure future. Lastly, Madam, any business requires stability and coherent policy environment, one that encourages investment and also compensates in case of loss. This is particularly relevant in the case of petroleum sector, where the capital investment is intensive. The bill offers a lease on predictable and transparent terms, as well as provides for compensation in case of suspension, revocation, or cancellation of the lease. This provision will create a relaxed regulatory environment and put India as among the global leaders in this sector. Madam, finally, as I conclude my speech, I would like to reiterate that Andhra Pradesh is the youngest state in the country, having undergone bifurcation 10 years ago. It is now imperative that Andhra's development is hastened, not only to recoup the losses of the past 5 years under the last state government, but also to establish the vision of Vikasit Bharat and Vikasit Andhra under the combined leadership of Shri Narendra Modi ji in the center and Shri Nara Chandrababu Naidu ji in the state. Thank you, Madam, once again for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
माननीय सदस्य कौशलेंद्र कुमार जी।
आपने मुझे तेल क्षेत्र विनियोग तथा विकास संशोधन विधेयक पर बोलने का अवसर दिया, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। मैं जनता दल यू की तरफ से इस बिल का समर्थन करता हूं। आज विश्व की अर्थव्यवस्था तेल पर ही निर्भर करता है। तेल उत्पादक देशों को मोनोपोली सी है कि कच्चे तेल के भाव को उतार चढ़ाव का खेल खेला जाता है, जिसमें भारत जैसे विकासशील देशों की अर्थव्यवस्था पर इसका सीधा असर पड़ता है। देश में महंगाई की सबसे बड़ी वजह तेल के बढ़ते रेट का कारण होता है। भारत करीब 80 से 85% अपने खपत का कच्चा तेल आयात करता है, यानी हम कच्चे तेल का आयात पर निर्भर हैं। अमेरिका के दबाव के कारण पिछले कुछ वर्षों से देश के कच्चे तेल का आयात पर असर दिखाई दिया है। माननीय मंत्री जी को मैं बधाई और देश के प्रधानमंत्री जी को बधाई देना चाहता हूं कि इस बिल लाने से काफी महत्वपूर्ण बिल है। देश के कच्चे तेल का भरपूर भंडार है, किंतु महंगी टेक्निक होने के कारण देश में उत्पादन में कोई उल्लेखनीय वृद्धि नहीं हो सका है। अब मंत्री जी काफी अध्ययन करके और इस देश के विकास के लिए तेल का आत्मनिर्भर हासिल करने के लिए ये सही निर्णय लिए हैं। इसके लिए मंत्री जी को बधाई देता हूं। इस कानून के बनने से तेल क्षेत्र में दोहन के लिए विदेशी निवेश बढ़ेगा, तेल और गैस उत्पादन बढ़ेगा, आयात कम होगा और हमारी विदेशी मुद्रा का भी बचत होगा। देश में अपना उत्पादन बढ़ाने से तेल और गैस सस्ते होंगे। देश तेल और गैस के लिए आत्मनिर्भर बनने की स्थिति में आएगा। देश में विकास की रफ्तार तेज होगी। महोदय, मैडम, रिपोर्ट के अनुसार वर्तमान में देश में कच्चे तेल की खपत करीब 5.4 मिलियन बैरल प्रतिदिन है, जो कि अगले 5 वर्ष में बढ़कर 7 मिलियन बीपीडी हो जाने का अनुमान है। डाटा के अनुसार देश में करीब 651.8 मिलियन टन कच्चा तेल का भंडारण और करीब 1138.6 बिलियन क्यूब मीटर प्राकृतिक गैस का भंडार है। अतः ऊर्जा क्षेत्र में आत्मनिर्भरता प्राप्त करने के लिए दोहन और उत्पादन बढ़ाना ही होगा। महोदय, मैडम, कानून बनाने के बाद तेल क्षेत्र में दोहन और उत्पादन करने वाली देशी और विदेशी कंपनियों को निवेश और कारगर करना सरल होगा। तेल खनिज क्षेत्रों को पट्टे पर दिया जाएगा। राजस्व साझाकरण नियमन में सुधार कर प्रोत्साहित करने वाला बनाया गया है। पट्टे पर देने में राज्यों की भूमिका को बरकरार रखा गया है और तेल को राष्ट्रीय संपत्ति का दर्जा दिया जा रहा है। तेल क्षेत्र के विवाद के हल के लिए मध्यस्थता की भी व्यवस्था की गई है। सरकारी हस्तक्षेप समाप्त होगा। अब सुधार से निवेशकों की नीतिगत स्थिरता मिलेगी, कारोबार करने में आसानी होगा। आशा है नए कानून से देश में तेल क्षेत्र में निवेश बढ़ेगा, खोज और उत्पादन बढ़ेगा, देश में विकसित और रफ्तार तेज होगी। कीमतों में पेट्रोल, डीजल और घरेलू गैस की कीमतों में गिरावट तथा स्थिरता आएगी। राज्यों के राजस्व में बढ़ोतरी होगी। केंद्र सरकार के कच्चे तेल की आयात पर विदेशी मुद्रा कम खर्च होंगे, देश में रोजगार के अवसर पैदा होंगे और युवाओं को रोजगार भी मिलेंगे। मैडम 2 मिनट और दे दीजिए। माननीय मंत्री जी का आभार व्यक्त करना चाहता हूँ, बस 2 मिनट। आभार व्यक्त करना चाहता हूँ कि इथेनॉल मिश्रण की व्यवस्था लागू किए और इसका परिणाम हुआ कि आज मेरे बिहार में इथेनॉल के उत्पादन में पूरे देश में अग्रणी राज्य बन गया है। देश में पहला इथेनॉल पॉलिसी बिहार राज्य में बना और मैं मानता हूं कि भारत सरकार की 20% तक इथेनॉल मिश्रण की व्यवस्था में बिहार में उत्पादित इथेनॉल का सबसे बड़ा हिस्सा हो गया मैडम। इसलिए मंत्री जी को मैं बधाई देता हूं और बिहार में करीब 15 इथेनॉल फैक्ट्री में उत्पादन चल रहा है और करीब 56.50 करोड़ लीटर इथेनॉल का उत्पादन हो रहा है और 47 नए इथेनॉल का प्लांट की मंजूरी।
धन्यवाद अध्यक्ष सभापति महोदया। धन्यवाद सभापति महोदया। मुझे ऑयल फील्ड रेगुलेशन एंड डेवलपमेंट बिल 2024 पर अपने विचार रखने का अवसर मिला है। ये विधेयक देश की ऊर्जा सुरक्षा, आर्थिक प्रगति और आत्मनिर्भरता के दृष्टिकोण से अत्यंत महत्वपूर्ण है। तेल और गैस क्षेत्र का महत्व किसी भी देश के विकास और अर्थव्यवस्था में अति प्रमुख है। आज भारत विश्व का चौथा सबसे बड़ा रिफाइनरी बन चुका है। 2014 में हमारी रिफाइनिंग क्षमता 215.07 मिलियन मैट्रिक टन प्रति वर्ष थी, जो अब 256.8 मिलियन मैट्रिक टन प्रति वर्ष तक पहुंच चुकी है। तेल और गैस की बढ़ती मांग और सरकार की दूरदर्शिता, भारत की तेजी से बढ़ती अर्थव्यवस्था के कारण ऊर्जा की मांग लगातार बढ़ रही है। अनुमान यह है मांगते दोहरा ने 1123 मिलियन टन तेल समतुल्य तक पहुंच जाएगी। ये देश के विकास की कहानी बना रख सकती है। स्वतंत्रता के बाद से भारत ने कच्चे तेल के उत्पादन में भी उल्लेखनीय वृद्धि की है। ये मात्र 0.26 मिलियन टन से बढ़कर 30 मिलियन टन हो गया है, जो 10,000% से भी अधिक की वृद्धि की दर्शाता है। इथेनॉल उत्पादन में क्रांतिकारी बदल, सरकार ने जैव ईंधन के माध्यम से ऊर्जा की उत्पादकता बढ़ाने के लिए कदम उठाए। 2014 में जहां इथेनॉल की खरीद मात्र 38 करोड़ लीटर थी, वही 2024 में ये 720 करोड़ लीटर तक पहुंच गई है। इसका सीधा परिणाम यह हुआ है कि लगभग 1 लाख करोड़ रुपए की विदेशी मुद्रा की बचत हुई है और 180 लाख मीट्रिक टन कच्चे तेल का आयात प्रतिस्थापित हुआ है। अध्यक्ष महोदया, भारत की हरित और प्रायोगिक क्रांति भविष्य की दिशा के लिए मार्गदर्शन करती है। राष्ट्रीय हरित हाइड्रोजन मिशन में यह मिशन भारत को ग्रीन हाइड्रोजन उत्पादन और निर्यात का वैश्विक केंद्र बनाने का लक्ष्य रखता है। 8 लाख करोड़ का निवेश और 6 लाख नौकरियां का सृजन करता है। 2030 तक 5 मिलियन मैट्रिक टन ग्रीन हाइड्रोजन का उत्पादन अनुमानित है। रुपए 1 लाख करोड़ की जीवाश्म ईंधन आयात में किया है। इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल चार्जिंग का भी इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर अच्छी तरह से हमारे यहाँ बन चुका है। सभापति महोदया, खनिज तेल की परिभाषा का विस्तार जो किया है, तेल में प्राकृतिक हाइड्रोकार्बन, कोल बेड, मीथेन और सेल गैस को शामिल किया गया है। इसके कोयला, लिगाइट और हीलियम शामिल नहीं होंगे। मुझे प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में ऊर्जा सुरक्षा और अंतर्राष्ट्रीय संबंधों की जो भूमिका है उसके बारे में 2 बात करना है। साल 2021-22 में रूस में भारत का कच्चा तेल आयात मात्र 1% था, जो 2023 में बढ़कर 20% हो गया। यह ऊर्जा जरूरतों को पूरा करने के लिए रणनीतिक और किफायती विकल्प प्रदान करता है। इसके अलावा ओपेक देशों में, जिससे सऊदी अरब और यूएई के साथ भी मोदी सरकार ने ऊर्जा साझेदारी को मजबूत किया है। सऊदी अरब जी भारत का दूसरा सबसे बड़ा तेल आपूर्ति करता है, ने पिछले साल लगभग 38 मिलियन टन कच्चा माल भारत के निर्यात किया है। प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी ईस्टर्न पॉलिसी और अंतर्राष्ट्रीय ऊर्जा गठबंधन जैसे पहल ने भारत को भू राजनीतिक तनावों और बावजूद ऊर्जा आपूर्ति बनाए रखने में मदद की है। भारत ने 2022 में अपनी ऊर्जा जरूरतों को 85% आयात किया, लेकिन प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी की नीतियां के कारण वैश्विक बाजारों में कीमतों की बढ़ने के बावजूद भी घरेलू कीमतों की स्थिरता रखा गई। अध्यक्ष महोदय, मैं खाली सभापति महोदय 2 पॉइंट रखना। सरकार से मैं पेट्रोल और डीजल के बारे में, मिलावट के बारे में करना चाहता हूं कि मिलावट करने वाले पेट्रोल पंप मालिकों के खिलाफ सख्त कार्रवाई की जाए। दोषी पेट्रोल पंपों के लाइसेंस तुरंत रद्द किए जाए। पेट्रोल पंप की नियमित और पारदर्शी जांच के लिए एक ठोस तंत्र विकसित किया जाए। दोषियों के खिलाफ कठोर दंड और आपराधिक मुकदमे दर्ज किया जाए। जो सिलेंडर ब्लास्ट होता है, सिलेंडर ब्लास्ट होने की घटनाओं में भी बढ़ोतरी देखी जा रही है। इसके लिए मैं सरकार से आग्रह करता हूं, सिलेंडर की गुणवत्ता जांचने के लिए सख्त मानक लागू किया जाए। पुराने और खराब सिलेंडर को तुरंत बाजार से हटाया जाए। सिलेंडर से जुड़ी सुरक्षा मानकों के बारे में जागरूकता अभियान चलाया जाए। सिलेंडर वितरण और रिफिलिंग केंद्रों पर नियमित निरीक्षण सुनिश्चित किया जाए। सिलेंडर फटने के मामलों में दोषी अधिकारियों और कंपनियों के ऊपर कड़ी कार्रवाई की जाए। सभापति महोदय, मेरे मुंबई के बारे में एक चिंता मुझे कह रही है। एक बेहद महत्वपूर्ण और ज्वलंत समस्या की ओर ध्यान आकर्षित करना चाहता हूं। ये समस्या पाइप गैस कनेक्शन की उपलब्धता न होने के कारण पाइप गैस कनेक्शन के लिए 3 साल तक लोगों को रुकना पड़ता है। मुंबई में घनी आबादी है, शहरों में ऊंची ऊंची बिल्डिंग है, उन्हें कनेक्शन नहीं मिल रहा है। इसलिए मेरा कहना है कि पाइप गैस कनेक्शन के केवल अधिक सुरक्षित है, बल्कि ये पर्यावरण के अनुकूल भी है। हरित ऊर्जा की ओर बढ़ने की दिशा में मुंबई को जल्दी से जल्दी पाइप गैस नेटवर्क से जोड़ना बेहद जरूरी है। ये कदम न केवल गैस वितरण में सुधार करेगा, बल्कि हमारे शहर को स्वच्छ करेगा। मेरा 1 मिनट में अनुमोदन है। 3 साल से अधिक समय से पाइप गैस कनेक्शन के लिए प्रतीक्षा कर रहे आवेदनों को प्राथमिकता से आधार पर पूरा किया जाए। पाइप गैस का नेटवर्क के विस्तार के लिए ठोस योजना बनाई जाए, ताकि अधिक से अधिक घरों में ये सुविधा मिले। ऊंची इमारती और हाउसिंग सोसाइटी में सिलेंडर के उपयोग को चरणबद्ध तरीके से कम घटने के लिए कदम उठाया जाए। सभापति महोदय, ये मुद्दा केवल सुविधा का नहीं है, ये मुंबई के नागरिकों की सुरक्षा पर।
Thank you, ma'am, for giving me the opportunity to participate in the discussion to introduce the Oil Field Regulation Development Amendment Bill 2024. Expanding scope of mineral oils, the major highlight of the Oil Field Regulation and Development Amendment Bill 2024 is the expansion of the definition of mineral oils. This includes the hydrocarbons such as shale gas, coal bed methane, alongside crude oil and the natural gas. The risk of over-exploitation of resources, the expanded definition of mineral oils could encourage rapid exploitation of unconventional resources like shale gas, leading to the resource depletion and ecological imbalances. The integration of renewable energy projects, the bill proposes the forward-looking measures to prevent the renewable energy projects like solar and wind power within the oil fields. This provision represents the commendable efforts to integrate sustainability into the energy sector. Centralization of regulatory power. The bill grants extensive authority to the central government for the rule making and the dispute education. Although the bill introduces the alternative dispute resolution ADR mechanisms, and the absence of clear timelines and procedural guidelines could lead to the prolonged disputes and deterring investment in the sector. The well-defined framework is essential to prevent the delays in the oil field operations and instill investor confidence. The Oil Fields Regulation and Development Amendment Bill 2024 represents the progressive step in addressing India's energy challenges. However, integrating the clear regularity boundaries and strengthening the environmental safeguards and the promoting local community benefits are the crucial for its effective implementation. I would urge the central government to consider these recommendations to make the bill most robust and inclusive. With this, YSR Congress Party support this bill. Thank you, ma'am.
माननीय सदस्य श्री E.T. मोहम्मद वसीर जी।
Madam, thank you very much. Madam, with regard to this bill, we all know that India and the whole world is facing a lot of issues like this oil field related matters. This is an era of different global energy contexts. There are many aspects connected with the energy access, energy security and energy affordability. There is an urgent need and pressing to the increase of domestic production of oil and gas to meet the rising demand for energy. We have to reduce import dependence of the country. India needs strong legislation in this regard. Madam, this legislation, I feel that it's a proper consideration for these aspects. Now coming to certain concern, Madam, environmental concern that is to be addressed. Similarly, air pollution kind of things connected with this industry, I'm saying. Water usage and contamination, that also is a matter of concern. Similarly, madam, health risk, communities living around that area, the health hazard, that also is an important thing to be addressed. Land conflict between the various sections, companies and local communities, that kind of things will have to be addressed. Displacement of communities because of the new industries coming. All these aspects will have to be given due consideration. Regulatory and legal compliance, that also is an important thing to be addressed. That I think proper care has not been taken in this regard. Greenhouse emission, that's a very important subject, madam. When we are making such a legislation, reforms, we have to give due consideration for that kind of thing also. Then community involvement. When an industry is coming, we must have a cordial relation with the community living around that. That part also be given proper consideration in this regard. Two important things I would like to point out, more things, sir, madam. When we are designing to enhance the exploration and protection, we should not forget the fact that we require sustainable and significant growth in the domestic production, particularly in oil and natural gas. That's a very important thing. When we are making a legislation like this, we must give due care in this thing also. Our slogan that Atmanirbhar Bharat should not be confined on a just slogan and as a lips exercise like that. We must give due consideration. We must have all kind of investment. But at the same time, as far as indigenous industries are concerned, we must do the maximum possible for their sustainability in that way also. In the foreign investment, when we are opening our doors for foreign direct investment, we must keep this thing in our mind. That also is a very, very important subject which I would like to point out. Similarly, madam, we must have legislations. When we are making this legislation, social aspect of that legislation, that also may be taken into consideration. I appeal to the government to have serious thinking about that. It's not only the matter of protection or like that. At the same time, it should go along with the other social aspect also. Industries we must have, foreign investment we must have. At the same time, life and of Indian industry, that also is an important thing. The companies are coming to capture the things. We should not do in that kind of things. We must preserve the wealth of our nation. These are the submissions which I want to make. Thank you very much.
माननीय सदस्य श्री गोपाल पड़वी जी.
Thank you for the opportunity, Chairman, Madam. I just want to ask the government, because the concerned minister has given a very guilty conscience reply. I think the shields are up. But I want to ask, the bill defines mineral oils as any naturally occurring hydrocarbons, whether in natural gas, liquid, viscous or solid form, or combination of these. It includes various resources as crude oil, natural gas and petroleum. However, it explicitly excludes coal, lignite and helium associated with it. Kindly give a reply to that. The bill, I feel, definitely encourages private investment to boost domestic production of petroleum production and mineral oils. I think that the bill is trying to decriminalize, and by decriminalizing, you're definitely trying to reform you're trying to replace the imprisonment provisions, the penalty provisions in place of fines. I think there is some kind of protection to the private entities, and definitely I feel that the government is trying to protect its most favored businessmen, or what is it? The government should give clarification regarding that. And the bill, I think, there is a certain objection regarding the state rights. The concerned minister gave a reply even before the discussion of the bill, but I would still raise that issue, because as Indian states have the authority to tax mining activities, this bill seeks to undermine the state rights. And on July 25, a Supreme Court bench of 9 judges ruled that states have the exclusive right to tax mining activities and collect royalties from mining leaseholds based on entry 50 of the state list in the Indian Constitution. However, by redefining the Oil Fields Act to provide petroleum leases instead of mining leases and restricting it to mineral oils rather than minerals, one could argue that the law would fall under entry 53 of the Union list, which allows Parliament to regulate oil fields, minerals, or oil resources and petroleum products. The potential environmental impact of privatizing the industry definitely can be raised in this issue, because public companies like Oil and Natural Gas Corporation and Indian Oil Corporation should be prioritized instead. The bill grants private players more discretion in their operations by removing criminal penalties and altering contracts. Day before yesterday itself, Indian Oil Corporation shares stock fell by 2.52%, and that itself says that there is some kind of unrest in the public companies, and the minister should give a clarification regarding that. I sense that there is a rapid shift. This kind of rapid shift would definitely undermine the PU's public sector undertakings role. And I want to give an example. I just want to cite an example. During the Deepwater Horizon oil spill of 2010, where the whole same process was centralized, and the local governments, especially in Louisiana, felt that they were sidelined during the crisis. This is what the government also should study into. I feel that. I want to give a certain example regarding Mumbai offshore and Rajasthan basins. There were recommendations by the Niti Aayog in 2018 proposal and the Oil Ministry's 2021 proposal for a stake sale in aging fields like the Mumbai High Basin and Basin oil fields that had been shelved. Why hasn't the government prioritized modernization, technological upgrades for these fields? The union government's decision to open 27,154 square kilometers of the Vadge Bank of Kanyakumari for oil exploration under 2016 hydrocarbon exploration and licensing policy threaten India's one of the most biodiverse marine regions. Why is the government prioritizing fossil fuel profits over the lives of thousands of fisherfolk and the environment? Just 30 seconds. I do not want to speak anything else, but just I want to ask this question, that few suggestions regarding this bill. To strengthen this bill, the government can actually provide a detailed framework for carbon footprint tracking and mandatory carbon offset programs to mitigate climate change. India is the third largest oil importer, and we have to try to increase the domestic production. That is, I would request the government. Thank you.
माननीय सदस्य श्री जगदम्बा पाल जी।
सभापति महोदय, मैं आपका अत्यंत आभारी हूं कि माननीय मंत्री जी के द्वारा द ऑफिशियल रेगुलेशंस एंड डेवलपमेंट अमेंडमेंट बिल 2024 जिसको लाया गया और जिसके संबंध में उन्होंने आज विस्तार से अपनी बातें रखी भी। उसके बाद तो मुझे लगता है कि ये बिल निश्चित तौर से इस बिल के संशोधन में लाने का जो मकसद है वो स्पष्ट हो गया है कि ये अमेंडमेंट बिल केवल संशोधन नहीं है, ये केवल अमेंडमेंट नहीं है, ये अमेंडमेंट भारत की ऊर्जा सुरक्षा, एनर्जी सिक्योरिटी, आत्मनिर्भरता और पूरे वैश्विक नेतृत्व को सशक्त करने की दिशा में एक क्रांतिकारी कदम है, जिसके लिए मैं माननीय मंत्री जी को बधाई देना चाहता हूं। और मैं कहना चाहता हूं कि आखिर इस ऑयल फील्ड रेगुलेशन एंड डेवलपमेंट अमेंडमेंट बिल 2024 पे जिस पे चर्चा हो रही, पूरे सदन के सभी सदस्य चर्चा कर रहे हैं, आखिर इसमें संशोधन लाने की जरूरत क्यों पड़ी? स्पष्ट है कि जब ये जिस तरीके से 1948 जो हमारा इसका प्रिंसिपल एक्ट है, इस प्रिंसिपल एक्ट में बदलाव लाने की कौन सी जरूरत पड़ी? आखिर 1948 में क्या कारण था? 1948 में ये जो मूल हमारा या प्रिंसिपल एक्ट है, ये इसमें केवल माइनिंग लीज की अवधारणा थी। तब तक हम क्रूड ऑयल को या प्राकृतिक गैस को केवल माइनिंग लीज में रखते थे, और उसके नाते जो और तमाम चीजें थी, चाहे हाइड्रोजन की आज बात हो, चाहे हमारे मिथेन की बात हो, सेल गैस की बात हो जिसको माननीय मंत्री जी ने कहा, कोल बेड मिथेन की बात हो, टाइट गैस की बात हो, हाइड्रोजन उत्पादन की बात हो, इन सारी चीजों को अलग अलग थी। अगर आज 1948 के उस प्रिंसिपल एक्ट में अमेंड करके माननीय मंत्री जी और सभी इस माइंस को जो अभी तक माइनिंग लीज कहलाता था, उस माइनिंग लीज को पेट्रोलियम लीज को करके संशोधन लाए हैं, निश्चित तौर से अपने आप में एक ऐतिहासिक कदम है। और ये पूरे वैश्विक में जो भी चाहे एफडीआई हो या दुनिया का कोई व्यक्ति क्यों निवेश करेगा, अगर उसको सेल गैस में हो, कोल बेड मिथेन में हो, टाइट में हो, हाइड्रोजन में हो, तो उसके लिए कोई ना कोई एक रेगुलेटरी होनी चाहिए थी। 1948 में अभी तक अनसर्टेनिटी थी, कोई सर्टेनिटी नहीं थी रेगुलेटरी की। तो जब कोई एक सर्टेनिटी नहीं होगी, अस्पष्टता का अभाव होगा, तो निश्चित तौर से कोई निवेश करने वाले के सामने एक अनिश्चितता रहेगी और वो निश्चित नहीं करेगा, क्योंकि निवेश करने का तात्पर्य होता है कि वो करे। और आज जब हम इस परिभाषा को बदल रहे हैं, तो अब इस परिभाषा में केवल ये माइनिंग नहीं रहेगी। अब माइनिंग के बाद जब पेट्रोलियम लीज होगा, तो इसमें कम से कम 4 सेक्टर जोड़े जा रहे हैं। पहला एक्सप्लोरेशन, दूसरा प्रोडक्शन, तीसरा रिफाइनिंग और फिनिशिंग, और चौथा ट्रांसपोर्टेशन। अब ये जब चारों सेक्टर को हम जोड़ेंगे तो निश्चित तौर से एक लॉन्ग टर्म में एक हमारी स्टेबल पॉलिसी होगी जो नवीन और तकनीकी चीज़ों को बढ़ावा देगी, जिसके कारण पूंजी निवेश को भी प्रोत्साहित करेगी। अभी तक 1948 में क्या था, उसके जो खनन के पट्टे की जो पैरामीटर था वो 1948 में जो कानून था वो स्पष्ट ही नहीं था। किसी कंपनी को कितनी अवधि के लिए होगा, कितने भौगोलिक क्षेत्र में, कितना डेमोग्राफी में उसको एक्सप्लोर करना है, इसका भी अधिकार नहीं था। एक अनिश्चितता के कारण कोई भी निवेश करने से डरता था। और जो नए कानून बन रहे हैं, पूरी दुनिया में जो नए डेवलपमेंट हो रहे हैं, रिसर्च हो रहे हैं, उसमें कानून में केवल तेल और गैस उत्पादन के लिए था। आज जब वैश्विक स्तर पे हम उन्नतशील तकनीकों को, नई टेक्नोलॉजी की बात करते हैं, उसका कोई उल्लेख नहीं था। तो आज तो ये अपने आप में एक ट्रांसफॉर्म हो रहा है, ये अमेंडमेंट नहीं हो रहा है। पूरी दुनिया में जैसे आज रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी में हम थर्ड हैं, हम उस पर आऊँगा विस्तार से, लेकिन मैं कहना चाहता हूं कि आज पूरी दुनिया में इस बिल के आने के बाद से शायद जो एनर्जी सेक्टर, जिसको शुरू में कहा उन्होंने कि हम 5th लार्जेस्ट इकोनॉमी हुए, 4th लार्जेस्ट इकोनॉमी बनेंगे और थर्ड होंगे, तो निश्चित तौर से उस दिशा में, क्योंकि एनर्जी का कंजम्पशन हो, एनर्जी का खर्चा हो, अभी बहुत वक्त नहीं, लेकिन मैं तब भी कह देना चाहता हूँ कि हमारे नहीं 2 मिनट हुआ, मुझे 5 मिनट की बात हुई है। मैं चाहता हूं कि आप सुन लीजिए कि यह कहा गया कि क्रूड ऑयल, नेचुरल गैस के प्रोडक्शन, आखिर यूपीए का देख लीजिए। ड्यूरिंग ईपीए रूल 2004 to 14 डोमेस्टिक क्रूड ऑयल प्रोडक्शन रिमेन्स स्टैग्नेंट एट अराउंड 38 MMT इंस्टेड ऑफ इंक्रीजिंग प्रोडक्शन। कांग्रेस लेड इंडिया एनर्जी डिपेंडेंस ग्रो मेकिंग अस मोर रिलायंट ऑन इंपोर्ट्स पे डिपेंडेंसी थी। Even natural gas, they failed miserably despite the huge potential of KG to D6 basin. India's government production collapsed under Congress corrupt and insufficient policy. The KG जो बेसिन स्कैम हुआ था उस समय का सबसे बहुत बड़ा करप्शन हुआ था, जिसमें कितना गादौरी बेसिन स्कैम में कहा गया था कांग्रेस लीडर में कि बिगेस्ट बिट्रेयल ऑफ द इंडिया एनर्जी सेक्टर। इंडिया एनर्जी सेक्टर के साथ, और ये मैं नहीं कह रहा हूँ, ये सीएजी की रिपोर्ट थी। सीएजी रिपोर्ट ने एक्सपोज किया था कि हाउ द गवर्नमेंट अलाउड अनड्यू बेनिफिट टू द कंपनीज लीडिंग टू मैसिव लॉसेज फॉर द नेशन। उस देश के लिए उतने बड़े, 1 मिनट सुन ले मैम, उसके लिए कौन जिम्मेदार? ये कहते हैं एनर्जी सिक्योरिटी की बात है। आपको याद होगा 2014 तक लोगों को गैस का सिलेंडर लेने के लिए पैसा दे करके उनको ब्लैक पे लेना पड़ता था, लाइन लगा के पुलिस थाने के सामने गैस का सिलेंडर पड़ता था और उसके बाद भी गैस नहीं मिलता था, लाठियां खानी पड़ती थी। और आज 11 करोड़ नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने गैस का सिलेंडर प्रधानमंत्री उज्ज्वला में दिया। ये एनर्जी सिक्योरिटी, कौन सी एनर्जी सिक्योरिटी? मैं आज कहना चाहता हूं, आप पेट्रोलियम की बात कर रहे हैं, आप देखिए साउथ ईस्ट एशिया की बात करिए। अगर इंडिया में हमारा पेट्रोल 94 रुपीज पर लीटर है, डीजल 87 रुपीज है, नेपाल में 103 रुपया पेट्रोल है, 156 रुपया डीजल है, बांग्लादेश में 106 रुपया पेट्रोल है, डीजल 105 है, पाकिस्तान में 255 है, 258 डीजल है, श्रीलंका में 309 रुपया है, 317। मैम ये बात मैं उनकी जानकारी में दे रहा हूं कि आज भारत में सबसे कम तेल का दाम, इसलिए कि भारत में एक स्थिर सरकार है, नरेंद्र मोदी के नेतृत्व में एक मजबूत सरकार है, इसलिए मुझे कहने नहीं दीजिए साहब कोई विजन नहीं था। आज मोदी जी का एक विजन है जिसका स्पष्ट तौर से, और मैं कहना चाहता हूं कि आज उस दिशा में जो हमने रिफाइनिंग में भी क्षमता को जो 249 मिलियन टन पर ईयर, उसको मैं अपनी बात को कंक्लूड कर रहा हूं, उसको बढ़ा के 249 मिलियन टन पर ईयर से 450 मिस्टर जयप्रकाश ट्राई टू लिसन मी 450 मिलियन टन पर ईयर ले जाने का लक्ष्य है। आज चाइना की क्या ऊर्जा नीति है? घरेलू उत्पादन पे, कोयले पे। भारत सौर में भी है, पवन में भी है, हाइड्रोजन में भी, एलएनजी में भी है। आज हम उसको एक सस्टेनेबल एनर्जी की मॉडल कर रहे हैं। जापान, दक्षिण कोरिया ऊर्जा आपूर्ति में विदेशों पर निर्भर है और भारत अपने घरेलू उत्पादन क्षमता को बढ़ा करके आत्मनिर्भर भारत बनने जा रहा है। तो इस तरीके से अगर अमेंडमेंट लेकर के आए हैं तो आप
माननीय मंत्री जी,
और मैं डिस्प्यूट रिजोल्यूशन मैकेनिज्म दिया है।
माननीय मंत्री जी प्लीज बैठिए, प्लीज।
हो गया यार, हो गया। मैडम, आई वुड लाइक टू स्टार्ट बाय,
प्लीज बैठिए, प्लीज।
I would like to start by Madam, I would like to start by thanking you and through you all the honorable members who have taken the floor. And I can say with all sincerity that it always immensely pleases a minister when a discussion of this kind starts to become information sharing with some good ideas coming, and it begins to take the shape of a seminar rather than a discussion on partisan lines. Therefore, I want to start by thanking all the honorable members, and I will start with the last of my colleagues and friends who have spoken, Shri Jagdimpika Pal ji. I want to thank Shri Padavi ji, Shri Mohammad Bashir ji, Tanuja Rani ji. I want to thank Ravinder Vaikar ji, Krishna Prasad ji, Pratima Mandal ji, Ramashankar Rajbhai ji, Shri D.M. Kathir Anand ji, Shri Dilip Saikia ji, and my colleague and friend Shri Manish Tiwari, who led the discussions. Madam, because of the shortage of time and in the interest of efficiency, I would suggest that I club some of the points made and respond accordingly. The first issue which has been raised is what is our long-term strategy for energy security? And I can say that our long-term strategy for energy security revolves around the trilemma of availability, affordability, and sustainability. And so far we have navigated all three, availability, affordability, and sustainability, I think very successfully under the Honorable Prime Minister's very bold and upfront and decisive leadership. Let me give an example. When it comes to availability, we have not hesitated, as the Honourable Member said, of importing from wherever we have to. And he mentioned a windfall, he mentioned problems can come. I just want to apprise him of the ground reality. Insofar as we are concerned, we used to import from 27 countries. Today, we are importing from 39, and of late, we are even buying from a 40th country. We will buy from wherever we have to. And my common refrain to my counterparts in other countries is, if you have oil in your backyard and if you can deliver it to my port of importation at a reasonable price, we will buy it from you. We do not distinguish between the sources of supply. But our companies, I am talking only about the public sector companies, the private sector I think is equally efficient at that, perhaps more, perhaps less. We will issue a tender at the point of importation that we need a particular grade of crude at a particular point. It can be Visakhapatnam, it can be any other point, and whoever wins the tender can supply. The supply logistics, the fleet, etc., is up to the supplier. We are very clear on that. And therefore, whether ups and downs come, during the last few years that I've been a minister, there's been turmoil in the market. There was an economic lockdown. The price of a barrel of crude came down to $19.56 a barrel. It then shot up to $128 a barrel. Today, when we look at prices, we are all within a range. And today, I would like to tell my friend, the Honorable Shri Manish Tiwari, there is more oil in the world coming on the global market, particularly from the Western Hemisphere. Let me give you the example of Brazil. It used to make 3 million barrels a day. They're bringing up another 140,000 barrels a day. Guyana, Suriname, Canada, the US. US is the world's largest producer. It produces 13 million barrels a day. They're bringing on another 1.6 million barrels. There is no shortage of supply. Therefore, if you are a large consumer, which we are as India, we are one of the largest consumers, we can leverage that market consumption card to diversify and buy from the cheapest source. I have therefore no doubt in my mind that we will be able to navigate this trilemma in the years to come with equal success under Prime Minister Modi's leadership. Now I come to affordability. I would have thought that some of my friends across the opposition benches would have talked about the price of energy. Very few of them did so, because the honest God's truth is India is the only country in the world where over a last 3-year reference period the price of petrol and diesel has actually come down. And the BJP states, which I will give you the answer, have the patience to listen to it. Have the patience to listen to it. We have brought down the price of petrol and diesel because the Prime Minister reduced central excise on 2 occasions, November 21 and May 22. Whereas the Congress-ruled states, have been increasing their VAT. They've also been increasing milk prices. So let us have a serious discussion, and whenever you are in a meet for a serious discussion, I will sit for you. Now we come to prices in the neighborhood. Prices in the neighborhood are at least 15 to 20 to 25% higher than in India. Equally, prices in Western Europe and the United States are much higher than in India. It's only in India that prices have come down.